Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernst Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. The transfer portal calmed down a little bit for a couple days, but it came roaring back on the day that the Heisman Trophy Award was announced as well. Dillon Gabriel, he's transferred from Oklahoma to the Oregon Ducks. So Oregon is showing consistently that they are relying on transfer quarterbacks to help them win games. Anthony Brown, he transferred in from Boston College to Oregon and had success. Then you talk about Bo Nix that transferred from Auburn to Oregon, who was a Heisman Trophy finalist this year. And now Dillon Gabriel, the former UCF and Oklahoma quarterback, he's making his way to Eugene, Oregon to play for the Ducks as well. I'm going to go over why this is a big addition for the Oregon Ducks and why I possibly think it could be a perfect fit for Oregon as well. So you talk about Dillon Gabriel. He had a really solid season. You look at his stats this year. He threw for 3,660 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 picks, and he ran 93 times for 373 yards and 12 touchdowns, and he led Oklahoma to a 10-2 record, which was a much better record than Oklahoma had the previous season, but the Sooners did not have as many good players last year in Brent Venables' first season. They were much better this year, but you still saw that the stats were good, even when Oklahoma did not have as much talent around him. He put up great stats at UCF as well, especially the 2020 season where he had 32 touchdowns and 4 picks, and throughout his college career, he's thrown 125 touchdowns and 26 picks, and he has 26 rushing touchdowns. So Dillon Gabriel, he's a stat-producing machine. It wasn't enough for him to land on the Heisman ballot this year. If you see where the Heisman voters ranked, they had Jane Daniels 1, Michael Penix Jr. 2, Bo Nix 3, Marvin Harrison at 4, then Jordan Travis, Jalen Milroe, Ollie Gordon, Cody Schrader, Blake Corman, J.J. McCarthy to round out the top 10. But Dillon Gabriel definitely had a case to be in the top 10 for the Heisman race. Jane Daniels, he had the most stats, which is why he won the race over Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. You saw Caleb Williams win the award last year, and he had more stats than anybody else. So it seems like the Heisman race is becoming a statistical award instead of an award won by a player that won the most games on a certain team, which is going to be interesting to see how the Heisman race votes in the future. But that's not what this video is about. It's about Dillon Gabriel transferring to Oregon. But the Heisman race did take place today. Just wanted to offer my little tidbits on that. I do believe Jane Daniels deserved to win the award because of his stats, but Michael Penix Jr. deserved to win the award because he won the most games. But Dillon Gabriel, if he can do that next year for Oregon, if he can win games and put up similar stats, maybe just a little bit better stats than he did at Oklahoma, then he could possibly be a guy that's a front runner for the Heisman race next year. But his stats are really solid, and I know that sometimes it's not a seamless transition to transfer to another school, but this is huge for Oregon because when Bo Nix transferred there, a lot of people thought that was going to be a bust because Bo Nix's stats were not as good at Auburn. If you see what he did, his seasons were full of mistakes and turnovers. 12 touchdowns and 7 picks is what Bo Nix had in 2020. 11 touchdowns and 3 picks in 2021 were an improvement at Auburn. But then when he went to Oregon out to the Pac-12, he had 29 touchdowns and 7 picks and 14 rushing touchdowns. And this past season, in his almost Heisman winning campaign season, he had 40 touchdowns and 3 picks and 6 rushing touchdowns. That's fantastic and definitely worthy of the Heisman Trophy award if he got it. But again, Jane Daniels got it for putting up more touchdowns than Nix, but that's a very impressive season. And when you look at a guy like Dillon Gabriel and Bo Nix, even though they're not the exact same, Bo Nix is taller and he weighs more, they're very similar in the fact that they both run the football, and they're also really good passers as well. And you talk about Anthony Brown, the quarterback that transferred from Boston College to Oregon, his stats in his final season were 19 touchdowns and 7 picks, and he had 658 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. So the last 2 quarterbacks that have played for Oregon were both guys that could use their legs. They were dual threat quarterbacks, and they were really good at passing the football. And Oregon has a lot of good weapons. Some of these guys are going to be off to the NFL, but the Ducks, they have a lot of NIL. They have a great operation in that regard. And with them now going to the Big Ten, Oregon's going to be able to probably replace all the positions that they possibly need players at. And I think that's going to really help Dillon Gabriel out as well. Now, it is going to be tough for him because Anthony Brown and Bo Nix played in the Pac-12, whereas Dillon Gabriel is going to now be in the Big Ten. That's going to be something interesting to monitor to see how Oregon can adjust to playing Ohio State, to playing Michigan, Penn State, as well as USC and Washington, all in the Big Ten. It's going to be wild to see if Oregon can still win at the rate that they have been winning with Dan Lanning so far, because in his first 2 seasons, they've gone 10-3 and 11-2. And before that, with Mario Cristobal, they were winning at a fairly high rate as well when Anthony Brown was the the quarterback. Then it carried over to Dan Lanning and Bo Nix, where their offense was electric. But the Pac-12, not as known as much for defense as the Big Ten is, and it's going to be the toughest defenses that Dillon Gabriel has ever faced. Because when he was at UCF, yeah, he lit it up and he did a great job, but that was in the American Conference. Then Oklahoma, who was in the Big 12, that also was a league that's not as much known for their defense. So even though it's very impressive that Dillon Gabriel put up the stats that he did at those stops, he was also not playing against as good of defenses. But I will say for Oklahoma, this is a tough loss to lose Dillon Gabriel. The Sooners are either going to have to hope that Jackson Arnold is going to be ready to take the reins at the quarterback spot, because a lot of people know how talented that he is, but he's still a young guy that does not have a lot of experience. Maybe he can come in and follow up what Dillon Gabriel did, or maybe they'll get a transfer portal quarterback, because there is a plethora of guys out there. Oklahoma, I'm sure, can sign one to at least give Jackson Arnold competition for the job, or maybe even can win the job. But losing a guy like Dillon Gabriel, it hurts any program. It's definitely going to hurt the Sooners, but I do think Oklahoma will be fine as long as Jackson Arnold can at least mostly replicate what Dillon Gabriel's done. And Oklahoma can get a better defense, because that's why they lost their 2 games that they did this year. If Oklahoma's defense had to perform better, the Sooners could have gone 12-0 and maybe been able to win the Big 12 with Dillon Gabriel at quarterback, because he put up the stats to do it. And that's what Oregon's going to have to do. They're going to have to continue to have good defense, improve on their defense from this past season, and possibly be able to get some really good guys to replace some of the talented players that Bo Nix had around him, because it's going to be tough in the new Big Ten that they're going to be joining. But Dillon Gabriel, I think, is a perfect fit for the Oregon Ducks, because as I've already outlined, Bo Nix and Anthony Brown, similar quarterbacks. They both were dual threats. They could throw the football, especially Bo Nix later on in his career. Dillon Gabriel, fantastic passer, can use his legs as well, has definitely scrambling ability, but he tries not to use it all the time to stay injury-free, because he has been banged up a couple times throughout his career, so he needs to stay healthy. But I think Oregon did a fantastic job getting Dillon Gabriel in. I think Dillon Gabriel made the right decision to go to the Oregon Ducks, because he probably saw what I'm seeing, where the other quarterbacks that they've had are similar to him, and he'll be able to seamlessly fit into that offense. Yes, it's tough that Oregon is not being able to recruit guys and then let them start, because Oregon's had some talented quarterbacks that have not been able to play because they keep going after transfer quarterback after transfer quarterback. But you can't really blame Oregon when you're bringing in guys like Bo Nix and Dillon Gabriel to start at the quarterback position. So Dan Lanning, he has to continue winning at a high level if the Ducks fans are going to continue to be satisfied with his coaching job with the Ducks, because we know in college football these days, if you start to slip a little bit, fans can get upset and your job will be in jeopardy in a heartbeat. But bringing in a guy like Dillon Gabriel, that calms all the fears any Oregon Ducks fans would have with losing a guy like Bo Nix. How is the offense going to look with a new quarterback? But Dillon Gabriel, I believe, will be able to continue to do what Bo Nix did. Maybe he won't be able to put up as immaculate of stats, but they're probably going to be really close, because Gabriel is a really talented quarterback. And I think at the end of the day, even though the transfer portal is not close to being done yet, and there's going to be a lot more guys committing to other programs, I think that this will end up being one of the best transfers, at least when it comes to fit, and how I think that Dillon Gabriel's style of play will work really well to help the Oregon Ducks offense continue the success they've had the last few years and get a lot of wins in the new Big Ten next season. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Dillon Gabriel transferring from the Oklahoma Sooners to the Oregon Ducks, and whether you believe like me that it's an almost perfect fit with Dillon Gabriel placing Bo Nix as the starting quarterback for the Oregon Ducks next season, or whether you think that Dillon Gabriel was not the right guy that Oregon should have gotten, that they should have gotten another quarterback to replace Bo Nix. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.